India's solar capacity has grown by 12 times in the last 5 years. And India has pioneered the International Solar Alliance as well. What are the lessons that other countries can learn from what India has done? Because a lot of European countries are also into solar and wind energy.
Well, I think that the greening of our economy is an essential part of the global effort in fighting climate change. And in order to do so, we also need to advance when it comes to energy transition, leaving behind fossil fuels and going for renewables. So in this perspective, I think the initiative of the Indian government, together with France, incidentally, EU member states, to launch the Solar Alliance is a very commendable initiative. We are also associated to that as European Union. We shall try to support as much as possible. I think it's an important piece of the puzzle when it comes to a global action of the international community to meet the target set in Paris.
Right. We want to wrap this session, but before that I want to take your closing comments, starting with you maybe. Yes.
I believe that we have to remember that this discussion between preservation or environment and development is happening since the 1970s, and developing countries have had an extremely important contribution to that, because we know, and that's why we reached the idea of sustainable development. We need to balance the environment with the social dimension and with the economic dimension. I truly believe that we made enormous progress, including politically. I think that scientifically we have the information, politically we have the willingness, but what is really missing is the incorporation of the challenges of taking into account the environmental dimension into economics. So I think that that is what is missing most. I think we have political will, we have scientific information, we have the answer of business, we have some incredible companies developing extraordinary technologies, but we still have not achieved. Try to talk about climate change with the Minister of Finance. So you're going to see what's going to happen in all of the countries. It's not only the developing countries. So I think that it's about economics. Those big discussions that we have and we're having in Madrid, essentially, we need to find an economic answer to those challenges. We have many of the answers, but we still have not progressed so much in the economic field.
I have one figure to add to that. 18 million jobs is what the green sector alone can generate by 2030. So that should be incentive enough. Closing comments.
Thank you very much. Well, I guess I would have two basic messages to convey. The first one is a sense of urgency. The figures you quoted earlier are very significant, are very eloquent. We need to act, and we need to act now because we have scientific evidence the situation is deteriorating. And the second message is that we need to scale up global ambition. Because if we continue on the present trend, we will not be able to reach the target set in Paris. That is to say, to avoid an increase in world temperature, which is superior to 1.5 degrees Celsius. So urgency, let's act now, and ambition. Let's have targets, let's have objectives which are up to the challenge.
Absolutely. We're not taking questions just yet, but thank you. Closing comments.
Actions need to be taken both at the national level and at the individual level. At the national level, India has much to teach. In the case of Indonesia, we can learn a lot from the solar experience, both in terms of technology, in terms of policy, in terms of trade policies, and we are doing that. Even though Indonesia is not only solar alone, but also wind and ocean currents. Now, at the individual level, I quoted Gandhi at the beginning. Let me quote Gandhi again. Be the change you want to see in the world. Now, at the individual level, and I think this will be the most fundamental in transforming the economy. Each individual, each and every one of us, we have a choice to make when we buy our clothing. Khadi material is a lot more environmentally friendly than other kinds of material, for example. What we eat, the means of transport that we use, all of this will have a fundamental impact on the environment.
Closing comments, sir.
I will also sound again an optimistic note. First of all, I would like to underline how big the consensus is now, not just among governments, but among business and individuals. This was not the case 15, 20 years ago. There was a fierce discussion on whether the evidence was scientifically based or not. Then incentives is very important to put the emphasis on this transformation on the economic side. We react to economic incentives, and now you see the collapse of car makers' plants all across the world because they are being sent mixed signals. So you just send mixed signals, and producers start having second thoughts, consumers the same. You don't know whether to buy an electric car, a hybrid car, or whatever. So incentives, economic incentives work wonders. Then science. I mean, evidence of climate change has been provided by science. But let's not forget that science could also, well, bring the solution or partial solutions to partial problems. The size of the scientific community now is huge. When you compare the size of the knowledge community in the world now when the science community at any time before, I mean, we have a wealth of knowledge that we might well tap to address the difficult issues we are confronting. Then I think it's going to be a quick transition. Everything happens very quickly these days, so this transition to a new era is not going to take 130 years. It's going to take several decades, no more, because everything has been fast-tracked. And then it's going to be a bumpy road. There are losers and winners, as in every other aspect of existence. Or when you say that one country is in denial, another one is in favor of action, I mean, it's because they are assessing differently risks, opportunities, and you hear a lot about what countries are more exposed, what areas, what communities, the pool, the bridge, the north, etc. And then the most optimistic note is an opportunity. There are going to be a lot of new economic avenues to create green jobs, new sources of wealth and income, and this should not be underestimated. This is why Spain has grasped the opportunity given to it by the Secretary General of United Nations to lead a group of nations and business to put the emphasis on the good side of all this story, which is the creation of new jobs in new sectors that we still find it hard to guess.
I think that's a good note to end on. Be optimistic, incentivize action, act urgently, and set targets. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for sharing your thoughts with us. And conversation, they say, is the first step towards constructive change, and I hope that ours will contribute. And since you've taken all the Gandhi quotes, I'll take Hemingway. The earth is a fine place worth fighting for. Thank you very much.